Hi, welcome to the Bible Forum. I'm Warren Sprouse. We're here every Sunday night from 8 until 10 p.m. Eastern, looking at life through a biblical lens. Tonight we're going to be looking a great deal at politics from a little different perspective, from a biblical perspective. I'm going to start over there in Texas. Townhall.com's got an article this week about a federal judge who barred the United States government from enforcing a 100-day deportation moratorium that's a key immigration priority of our new president, Joe Biden. This according to the Associated Press. The U.S. District Judge Drew Tipton issued the temporary restraining order sought by Texas, which sued on Friday against the Department of Homeland Security memo that instructed immigration agencies to pause most deportations. Tipton said the Biden administration had failed to provide any concrete, reasonable justification for a 100-day pause on deportations. This is an attorney, a judge, using common sense. What changed as far as the world situation just because Joe Biden got elected, that we can now let tens of thousands of people walk through the gate without any restrictions at all? Makes no sense. Over on Newsmax.com, we got Mike Lindell's account that was removed. You know Mike Lindell? He's the founder of and CEO of MyPillow.com. He is an ardent Trump supporter, and he has been a little too vocal, as it turns out. He claims that there was voter fraud during the presidential election. He's maintained that fraud led to Trump's election loss. So you can't say stuff like that on Twitter. Not in America. The only place in the world where free speech is canonized in our founding documents. Now do you get it? WatchJerusalem.co.il had an article this week on President Trump, how he had released his highly anticipated 1776 commission, which sought to revive appreciation for America's founding and its Constitution. The same day, the United States mission to Israel released a statement recognizing the city of David as a significant place of American heritage abroad. Both statements declare the biblical roots of America's Constitution and values. 2 days later, under the Biden presidency, the 1776 Commission was deleted from the White House website. First day of the new presidency. ChristianHeadlines.com got a former service pastor. You know, we used to just have pastors, and we had associate pastors. Now we got pastors for everything. This is a service pastor. I don't know what that is. Is that the church service, or is that a pastor who services the church? I don't get it. But anyway, this is a service pastor for a church called Hillsong, Los Angeles. And she's explaining how the leadership technically stole money from the church for their own private use. Her name is Nicole Herman. Apparently it was her job to fill out prepaid cards, debit cards, for the various pastors and staff members. She did this after every service. The offerings were counted, and the team that counted the money then allocated a percentage for what can only be called a slush fund, something to be given to the pastors. Cards were loaded and distributed. The pastors could then use them any way they chose. Apparently, this was in addition to whatever their salary may have been, since the report indicates several of these pastors used the cards for lavish dinners, designer clothes, manicures. In November 2020, Hillsong New York City founder and pastor Carl Lentz was fired. Fired for what the leadership called what was called leadership issues and moral issues after leading that church for 10 years. Following his termination, Lentz revealed that he had cheated on his wife, Lauren. The biblical term is not cheated. The biblical term is adultery. It's a sin. It's a crime. Under Mosaic law, he and she would have been stoned to death publicly. In that same month, Brian Houston announced that an independent investigation would be launched into the inner workings of Hillsong, New York City. Hillsong was founded by pastors Brian and Bobby Houston in Sydney, Australia, back in 1983. We've seen pictures of celebrities sitting at a bar with their pastors, drinking alcoholic beverages, talking about the weather, whatever it is. Events that apparently didn't raise any questions. But money, especially when it became publicly known, oh yeah. Liberals pretty much don't understand the military. It hasn't taken any of us very long to figure that out. ChristianHeadlines.com had an article about a Trump administration policy that during his tenure required military personnel to serve in their biological sex, they're called, but it's gender, not their preferred gender. The Trump policy allowed current transgender personnel who did not meet the new standards at the time of its implementation to remain in the military, but apparently no new ones were coming in. Persons who had sex reassignment surgery or were diagnosed with gender dysphoria were classified as ineligible for the military under this Trump policy. Now, the Trump policy is not new. That's the way it always was until homosexuality and all of this other sex reassignment surgeries and stuff became popular. But prior to that, you didn't have homosexuals in the military. They're not bad fighters. They're not people who don't care about their country, but it's close quarters. These guys sleep in pup tents and out on the field, and it's just things happen. The Biden administration came along and issued an executive order that reverses the whole thing. It institutes or reinstitutes the Obama-era policy, which allows individuals to serve openly under their gender identity. That is whatever they claim it to be. A biological man who identifies as a woman, for example, can serve alongside women under the new Biden policy. That'll work. He said, quote, "Today I repealed the discriminatory ban on transgender people serving in the military." It was not a discriminatory ban. It was a safety issue. He says, "It's simple. America is safer when everyone qualified to serve can do so openly and with pride, no matter who gets damaged in the process." Oh, wait a minute, he didn't say that. Our new president is a good Catholic. We used to call them Roman Catholics. Now we just call them Catholics. But they're still Roman Catholics. Another ChristianHeadlines.com. In a statement last Friday, the president said he wanted to make certain Roe v. Wade would remain despite efforts in Congress to abandon it. Therefore, he wants Congress to make new laws that allow for the painful, barbaric medical process we call abortion. This is the deliberate murder of a helpless being, a procedure wherein babies just beginning life are literally torn apart alive in utero, not to mention chemicals. Critics claim it's simply a lifeless mass of body tissue. Science indicates that this lifeless tissue looks a lot like a human being, acts very much like it's alive, and that's at 12 weeks of gestation. In addition, it's a medical certainty that it can feel pain prior to the 24 weeks the abortion industry would suggest. This from the Journal of Medical Ethics, January 2020. A time when women are just beginning to understand they may be pregnant. In a statement Friday, January 22nd, recognizing the 48th anniversary of Roe v. Wade, The Biden administration said it would work to codify Roe v. Wade into federal law and will nominate judges who respect that landmark decision. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi said our new unified Democratic government, it's not a democratic government, it's a Democrat government. Nancy, give me a call. Let me explain it to you. The new unified Democrat government will continue working to strengthen women's comprehensive health care, to reduce unintended pregnancies, to lower maternal and infant mortality, to safeguard every woman's personal right to decide when and how to start a family. We don't have a democratic government, but we have a democratic leadership. Got to keep it all straight. Abortion is not health care unless the mother's life is in jeopardy. Killing a viable human being is not a personal right, at least not yet. And the landmark decision was based on drawings of what the defendants considered was reality. There were no sonograms. There was no way to know. Roe v. Wade is something liberals do not want to revisit in a court of law. Technology not available 48 years ago would blow this thing up in their face. That's why they want to pass a law. We don't have to go back to court anymore. JudicialWatch.com is looking at President Biden, and they're saying, for him, apparently there's nothing to see here. We've got a storyline. A president takes office amid charges of family corruption and shady business dealings with a country connected to interfering in the very election that put him in the White House in the first place. Sound familiar? This is what the Democrats were saying 4 years ago about Trump. Fast forward. Judicial Watch started a petition. You can find it at change.org to investigate Biden family dealings in China, Ukraine, and other countries. Did they do this out of spite? Not really. Apparently, there's substantial evidence from documents and witness statements that the Biden family may have been involved in criminal activity with foreign entities tied to Ukraine and China. Judicial Watch has uncovered documents that show even as far back as the Obama administration, Russia-linked media in Ukraine were trolling Joe Biden over his son's business. Reality? Mr. Biden's son, Hunter, has acknowledged that he is a target of an FBI criminal investigation. An investigation like this should involve alleged money laundering, influence peddling, and tax violations, among other shady activities. Of course, with his father being the president, don't expect this to go very far. It appears the false narrative that Democrats concocted to hobble the Trump administration 4 years ago is now the real deal with the Biden family. And unlike President Trump, who faced unprecedented institutional resistance and deep state resistance, President Biden can likely count on the Justice Department, Congress, and the media to allow him to escape any meaningful scrutiny. And what's happening? President Biden immediately, unilaterally canceled the Keystone XL pipeline. So China benefits. How? Because Canadian oil will now be diverted to China. Not coming this way. We have also re-entered the Paris Climate Accords, a move observers say will give political cover to China and her excessively polluting dirty coal industry, an industry in which Hunter Biden is heavily invested. Oh, on day one, the Biden State Department removed a page on its website that contained a comprehensive assessment of the threats China poses to the United States and to her allies. This from a country that slapped outrageous sanctions on outgoing Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and 27 other Trump officials. Events that have people wondering what leverage China has on our new president. Or is he just simply not paying attention? You know, this president is not really running the show. He gives every indication he doesn't know what's going on, and the people that surround him are globalists. It's a polite word for America last. He's also said he would resign should it become clear he could not govern. From townhall.com, the CBO believes President Biden has possibly killed 4.1 million total jobs in his executive actions thus far, to date, like 10 days in. His first push as president was to give citizenship to 11 million illegal immigrants. Not sure that worked very well. We'll have to wait and see. But after that, 70,000 jobs, 10,000 jobs in Canada, gone. Why? How? Revoking the permit for Keystone Pipeline. Not counting those who depended on those workers, the service jobs, the hotel jobs, the landlords, food service workers, grocery store workers. Along with his $15 minimum wage that could kill another 3.7 million jobs. Just when U.S. production of energy surpassed the demand, first time in 62 years, just when we got loose of Middle East oil, none of this makes any sense on any level, except U.S. dependence on foreign oil again. Self-reliance is the key to survival. This administration does not want the U.S. to survive. Then there's the transgender inclusion in sports, men competing against women, men in women's locker rooms and showers and so forth. Not to mention the natural differences that will push women out of the winner's circle in many sports. ProphecyNewsWatch.com told us this week about a Democrat National Committee official by the name of David Atkins, who wrote on Twitter that, quote, deprogramming, end of quote, is needed for every one of the more than 74 million people who voted for Donald Trump. How's that? At the same time, a large number of private individuals have joined a growing nationwide effort to punish anybody or any entity that was ever closely associated with the former president. This is why the left is cheering big tech's embrace of the cancel culture and pushing cable providers to stop airing One American News Network, Newsmax, and other conservative influencers. It's why the so-called Trump Accountability Project, which seeks to prevent administration officials from gainful employment, is not widely denounced for the thuggery that it is. And why 250 publishing professionals feel comfortable circulating a No Book Deals for Traitors petition that says former Trump officials should not be allowed to publish their work. It's also why Harvard students think it's reasonable to circulate a letter demanding the revocation of degrees earned by Republicans who questioned the 2020 election, and why MoveOn.org demands that the Senate not give Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley any committee assignments. Now that the Democrats have full power in Washington, it's open season on Donald Trump and anybody who supports him. But the truth is that the vast majority of the civil unrest over the past year has been caused by radicals on the left. And it appears this is only going to get worse in the months and years to come. Can you say National Socialist Party? ChristianHeadlines.com had an article from Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's a Republican from Georgia. She's been the source of controversy over her beliefs in multiple conspiracies. The introduction of articles exactly one day after Biden took the oath of office. As of Friday, the articles did not have any co-sponsors. But it says President Joe Biden is unfit to hold the office of presidency. His pattern of abuse of power as President Obama's vice president is lengthy and disturbing. President Biden has demonstrated that he will do whatever it takes to bail out his son, Hunter, and line his family's pockets with cash from corrupt foreign energy companies. End of quote. The text of the articles were not yet public, but a press release from Greene's office alleged Biden had enabled what she called bribery and other high crimes and misdemeanors by allowing his son to influence the domestic policy of a foreign nation and accept various benefits, including financial compensation, that from foreign nationals in exchange for certain favors that have yet to be described. But stay tuned.